everybody, and welcome to today's video. We're here to talk about an end-of-year game release today, and conventional wisdom is that end-of-year game releases are anything but good. I am talking about the window that is about 2 weeks before the end of the year through Christmas and New Year's, and then the first week or two of January as well. Typically, the conventional wisdom is you don't release games during this time because they don't sell. So what does get released at this time is the stuff that is never expected to sell. Very niche games, Christmas-themed things, and just shovelware. Things that are there just to get a quick buck or two out of players that have nothing else to play and have a bit of money to splash around on the eShop or whatever. They tend to be very low quality, but I do like to check the stores at this time of year because occasionally you do find a gem in there. It might be a very rough gem, but it is a game that really appeals to you that you will just wouldn't notice or play at any other time of year. Real-Time Battle Shogi Online is a game that was released a couple of days ago on the eShop and exclusively to the eShop, I think. And it is one of those games that has very much appealed to me as something that I probably wouldn't pick up any other time. But I had a couple of dollars to spare and it was there on the eShop, so I gave it a go. And I haven't been disappointed at all. I do recommend it. It's about $15 in Australian money, so it's not going to break the bank. And you will get a lot of fun out of it, especially if you do like your more traditional board games. So shogi, for people who don't know what shogi is, it is basically Japanese chess. The rules are vaguely similar to one another. The pieces move in a very similar way. And if you have played chess or if you know the rules of chess, then you have a vague understanding about how shogi works. There are unique things about shogi. Most notably, there is the ability to bring pieces back onto the board once you've captured them. And your pieces do get promoted, a bit like checkers, when they reach the end of the board, which is something that is only vaguely there in chess if a pawn reaches the end of the board, but in shogi it's a more expanded thing. The other problem for people who have played a lot of chess, the thing that they need to grasp as they get into shogi is the fact that the pieces are all depicted by characters rather than a slightly less abstract piece, as in on the chessboard. So you have to learn what each of those symbols mean when you look at a shogi board, which for people like me can be quite challenging. I mean, I'm learning Japanese and all that, but wrapping my head around what I'm looking at when I look at a shogi board is something that is preventing me from becoming a great shogi player at the moment. I'm not very good at this game at all, but I am learning. I do enjoy it, and I do think that Real-Time Battle Shogi Online, which is a mouthful of a game title, but I really do think that that game is going to help me because it forces me to think quickly, and it forces me to very quickly get in the habit of recognizing what these pieces are and what they do. So as the name suggests, in Real-Time Battle Shogi Online, you're playing real-time shogi. So rather than the turn-based player 1 takes a turn, player 2 takes a turn, so on and so forth, in Real-Time Battle Shogi Online, everybody plays at the same time. Well, yourself and one opponent, you play at the same time. And that creates obviously a very, very different dynamic to how the game works. You don't have to wait for another person. You have to think very quickly on your feet. You need to be very observant about what's happening across your whole board at all times. When you move a piece, there's a little timer that counts down to 0 with weaker pieces, such as the pawns, having a quicker countdown than the more powerful or important pieces like the king or whatever. But once you move a piece, you've got a couple of seconds before you can move it again. That's really your only limitation in terms of how much you can move these pieces around and how quickly you can take another turn. So you can move multiples of them in one go. And one of the first things I've found is a useful strategy, at least that's what I'm doing at the moment, is I'm moving all of my pawns forward in the first couple of seconds. So it is an interesting dynamic that changes how you play shogi. And like I said earlier in the video, it really forces you to learn what the pieces do very quickly. Already I'm finding, having only played a couple of games of this, I'm getting much better at picking out which pieces on the board are doing what, and how I can move them, and what role they'll have in terms of my real-time strategy as such. Now, this game is obviously designed to play online. Unfortunately, I haven't had an online game as yet, because there doesn't seem to be much of an audience there. In fact, I signed into the global leaderboards, and I'm currently ranked around 500 despite having not played a game. So if that's my ranking and I just haven't even played a match yet, you can guess that this isn't exactly Fortnite. It's not like you're going to sign in and be able to play against 100 people online instantly. if you are going to get into this, and particularly the online side of things, you're going to have the patience to sit in the lobby for quite some time. And that was always the case. I knew that buying this, that if I was going to play online, despite online being in the title, I was going to have a lot of patience to find the very small audience of people out there that would want to play shogi, let alone real-time shogi with me. But the presentation of the game is actually really nice. There are 4 different types of boards you can use. There is the traditional shogi board, and if you are learning the game, there is a version of the board which actually puts little dots on the pieces to tell you how they can move. So you can use that as a guide for learning shogi when you're a real beginner. And then there's also this kind of really neat digital neon colored one, which appeals to me as a fan of the 80s and all that kind of stuff. And then there's a fantasy one, which I'm not quite sure what the fantasy about it is, but the pieces do look nice. And across the 4 boards, everything does look good in this game. And if you aren't able to play online, or if you don't particularly want to, it's not like you're left out either. There is a local multiplayer mode, so you can play 1 versus 1 with one other person. And it can be quite manic and a lot of fun, because it is still very much a strategy game, even though it is in real time. And outwitting your opponents can be a lot of fun. You can also play against the CPU, and there are 9 CPU opponents, I think, from memory, and they can range between 1-star difficulty or 0-star difficulty actually, and a full 9 stars. And on top of that, you can actually give them 3 other difficulty settings. So you could play against a 0-star easy opponent, or as you graduate, you can play 0-star hard opponent, and then move all the way up to 9-star hard opponent, which will test pretty much anybody. Because obviously as you go up the ranks, the AI gets more aggressive, their piece movement becomes more precise, they become much better at reading the board and all of that stuff. So there is plenty of challenge there. Now this game comes to us by Silverstar. I think that's the name of the developer, Silverstar. And they have done quite a lot of stuff actually on the Switch now. They did release a shogi tutorial game, which I don't believe I covered on this channel, but it replaced the shogi pieces with animal pieces, which is actually a thing in Japan. When they teach kids how to play shogi, there's a particular type of board game that they pull out to teach them, and it's that one. So there is that on the Switch eShop. There is also a Go teacher tutorial simulator thing that they've released as well. So this developer is very much about bringing Asian board games to Western audiences. With that comes some very dodgy translations, localizations. This isn't a story-driven game by any means, and you can navigate around the thing, but yeah, it is a Google Translate special, so just go in being prepared for that. Not that it matters, but for some people the translations are a thing. And other than that, just have the patience to spend your time waiting in those lobbies to get the the online games going, because this is a very niche thing. But I'm glad it's there. The shogi is a board game that does deserve to be played around the world. It is one of those kind of cultural artifacts from Japan that, like Hanafuda and various other traditional games, has a lot of merit to it and does teach you a lot about the culture to play it. So I do encourage anybody that has an interest in Japanese culture to learn something about shogi, and through doing so you'll learn something about the Japanese people. Anyway, that is enough for this video. This is probably my last video of the year, given that it is the end of December. And I wasn't actually going to do this video at all, but I figured that it would be better to do a quick video about this than try and review it, because I don't think anybody's going to read a review of Time Battle Shogi Online, but who knows, people might discover this game down the track when they're searching through the eShop, and maybe they'll come across this video and it will give you an idea of what to expect from the game. Do let me know your own thoughts in the comments. Are you a fan of shogi? If so, I'd love to hear from you. If you're a fan of Japanese board games in general, I've done videos on Hanafuda and whatnot in the past, and they have been pretty popular, so there are quite a few of you out there. Do drop me a note and let's have a chat about shogi. Please feel free to make fun of my absolutely terrible tactics that you've been watching in these videos as we play. Like I said, I'm still very much a work in progress myself with learning shogi, but I am enjoying the process, and Time Battle Shogi Online is helping me with that. Please do mash that like and subscribe button if you've enjoyed this video, or if you enjoy my work in general. That way you won't miss any as I upload them. And if you do want to support what we're doing here on digitallydownloaded.net, then you can back us on Patreon. That can be done for as $1 a month, if not more. If you want to do more, then great. If you don't, then great. Your support is most welcome anyway. And regardless of what you do back us for, you do get our digital magazine, the DD Zine, every month as part of your support. That is a 48-page plus magazine that goes in depth with all kinds of things to do with Japan, not just video games, but also culture, art, music, literature, film, whatever else. It's an interesting magazine for anybody that enjoys their Japanese culture. All right, thanks very much, everybody. Have a great New Year's, and we will see you at the next video.